brand new polling data suggests the Kamala Harris polling surge is starting to fade. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back in with a new video, and today we have to talk about the 2024 presidential election because we have brand new polling data that suggests the Kamala Harris surge is at this point, at the bare minimum, starting to fade, if not outright collapse. And I know, not every poll is showing this. For example, you have the trash heap poll from Marquette that claims that, yeah, Trump is winning Wisconsin, but at the same time, he's losing the national vote by like 10 points or whatever. It's like, no, that's not gonna happen. You're full of crap. It was a bad poll. But even then, that poll was conducted like 2 weeks ago. It was ridiculous they waited that long to release it. But either way, it's like 2 weeks old. The polls I'm showing you right now, they're from like a week ago at most. And the majority of them, they're from just 2 to 3 days ago. So they're not 2 weeks old. Most of them are not even a week old. They are brand new polls, and they're showing, yeah, this Harris bump, surge, whatever you want to call it, it looks like it's fading. For example, RMG Research, which, by the way, this is not Rasmussen. I cannot believe that a lot of people are pushing this theory that this is actually Rasmussen. No, it's not. Yes, the main pollster, his last name is Rasmussen, but this is from RMG Research. Now, there is a Rasmussen poll we will get to in a little bit, but this is not the Rasmussen poll. People gotta get that correct. It's a separate pollster. So, this poll, it went from Harris plus, I believe, 5 or 6 to Harris plus 1 in just 1 week. Yeah, a 4-point shift in 1 week. Yeah, this is not from 3 weeks ago. No, this is from the 7th, just 2 days ago. What does that tell you? A 4-point shift in, what, a couple days? And even with leans, it's only Harris plus 1. Even in this scenario, Trump wins the Electoral College. But it showed in just 1 week, we went from Harris plus 5, Harris plus 6, down to, yeah, Harris plus 1. That's a 4-point shift in a week. That tells me that the theory that's a response bias causing most of the Harris surge is probably correct. How do you explain a 4 to 5 point shift in 1 week? Unless something absolutely crazy occurs, you don't usually get that outside of a response bias or a really weird sample. That's the only way you get a 4 to 5 point shift in a week. You don't have swings every other week where it's 10 points towards Trump, 12 points towards Harris. No, the average voter doesn't do that. They don't flip-flop between Trump and Harris. Some of them do, but it's like, what, 2 to 3% of the vote? It's not 15 points 1 week and then 20 points the next week, 5 points the other. This is a response bias, that what we were seeing a week ago. And now, that response bias, funny enough, this happened after the stock market news and Tim Walz being selected as a VP, it looks like it's fading, according to RMG Research. Now, you might be arguing, well, it's only one pollster. Like, RMG Research, their record is pretty bad. And you could argue, well, maybe this is just a fluke. Maybe there's a big change towards Harris. It's just one poll. Well, CNBC, which I'll admit, it is a little bit older, but it's not 2 weeks old. It released on like the 6th or something, but it ended their poll on the 2nd. So it's not like with Marquette where they waited 2 weeks and then released the poll. That's not what happened here. It was, oh yeah, 2 to 3 days after the fact, we released it. CNBC found Trump plus 2. Compare that with their July poll. No change. Really, the only thing that changed was there were less undecideds. That's the only thing that happened. Which, by the way, I called this a while ago. That a big part of the Harris surge was not necessarily just a response bias, but a bunch of Democrats that were so pissed off with Biden finally coming home. That's the only thing that happened. She didn't flip a bunch of Trump voters to her column. Maybe a couple here and there, but she didn't win over half of Trump supporters. She didn't flip a quarter of them. All that happened was a bunch of Democrat-leaning undecided voters. They thought to themselves, well, Biden was so bad that anyone, including Kamala Harris, who just 2 weeks ago we hated, we would rather have that than Biden. And that's what's happening. CNBC, I'm not calling a far-right poll. Would anyone in their right mind say CNBC is a far-right news outlet? No. But either way, they showed no change. July, Trump +2. August, Trump +2. There's no difference here. And even if they're off by a couple points, Trump's already at 48%. All right? That means no matter what happens, his vote share has increased dramatically compared to 2020. Harris will have to win nearly every single undecided voter in this poll to win by 4 points. That's not good for her. These are not good numbers for Harris. The fact is, this should be a Harris +6 poll. I'm just being real. We should be seeing every poll being Harris +3, Harris +4, Harris +5, not one poll like Marquette showing Harris +8. But every other pollster is either within the margin of error or, in Rasmussen's case, outside the margin of error for Trump. And I know people are going to just say, well, this is Rasmussen. They're a bad pollster. Why are you even mentioning them? They're not a good pollster. I mean, they have Trump +5. That's crazy. And I'm not denying that Rasmussen, at times, they have weird results. I'm not denying that. They can fluctuate quite a bit considering how they do their polls, which is daily. But they're one of the only pollsters that I know that does this every single day. They track it daily. And they even admitted that Harris a couple weeks ago, like I think 2 weeks ago, maybe last week, she peaked. She was beating Trump by 2 to 3 points, but then, ever since then, her numbers have been going down. And in the last, 4 to 5 days, just like we saw with RMG research, her numbers are starting to get pretty bad in some polls. What does that show you? What does that tell you about this race? That this Harris surge, it was more of a response bias. And maybe some Democrats coming home, but the vast majority of this swing came from a bunch of Democrats more likely to take polls. They were inflating the results for Harris. And everyone's going to say, well, they're a bad pollster. Rasmussen is a trash record. Why are you even talking about them? They don't have a bad record. I don't get where this idea came from. Like I said, they can have some weird results. I am not denying that. They have some weird results here and there, especially at the state level. But their national polling usually is pretty good. Now, again, there's sometimes they get some wonky results. I'm not denying that. Like right here, they had Biden +12 in early October of 2020. Outside of that, though, are any of these polls really outside of the margin of error? Like outside of the, reasonable miss? It ended up being Biden +4.5. Every poll except for one, actually two, it was outside of 4 points. That's it. 2. And the vast majority of them, they were within a point or so. Does this look like a bad pollster? Does this look like a pollster that is a far-right outlet? Again, their polls at times, yeah, they do lean to the right. But the reason they look so Republican is because, unlike other polls, they miss both ways. Sometimes they overstate Republican support, sometimes they overstate Democrat support. That's how polling's supposed to work, by the way. Not just every poll, they overstate Democrats by 5 points. Rasmussen, they went back and forth. Does this look like a poll that's fake in a far-right outlet? No. It just looks like a poll that at times has wonky results, but every poll has that. They get weird numbers because of the sample, because of a response bias. That's what happens. This does not look like a garbage poll. And they show right now, and they're one of the only ones that poll daily, they're showing the Harris surge is ending. Or at the bare minimum, it's slowing down. That's a fact. That's not a cope. That's not, a delusional take. They even post the graphs on Twitter that you can look at. They pulled daily, and they found, yeah, exactly what I said, a response bias for a day or two, but then it went back down to normal. That's what's happening here. And on top of that, that's 3 national polls. One of them from CNBC. I don't think anyone's going to call them far right. One of them from RMG Research, who back in 2020 overstated Biden by like 3 to 4 points. They're showing a 4-point shift. And Rasmussen, who polls daily, they're not finding this mythical 7-point swing like Marquette found. They're not. There is, however, one other poll that was released just a couple hours ago, and this one's a bit controversial, I understand that, but you look at the track record from 2020 and 2016, especially at the swing states like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. This is a good pollster overall. I'm not saying they're perfect. At times, they get some bad misses like, remember Vermont 2022? That was a bad miss. But Trafalgar, they conducted studies in a bunch of states, like 6 of them. And outside of Michigan, Trump is winning in every single one of them. And I know some people are going to say, but Trafalgar's a bad pollster. Insider Advantage, they're awful as well. Why are you talking about them? Well, because guess what? The reality is they are, relatively speaking, good pollsters. I'm not saying they're perfect, but they are far better than, say, Quinnipiac or even the New York Times. They are good pollsters. I'm not denying Trafalgar and Insider Advantage. They can have misses, but every pollster has misses. I don't get why they're held to a different standard. While Quinnipiac, they have Biden +6 in Ohio. Trafalgar misses by a point, and everyone loses their minds. Let's go back to 2020. Well, let's go to Ohio, for example, okay? Trafalgar was one of the only pollsters to even have Trump winning, let alone by 5. If it wasn't for Rasmussen and Trafalgar, this aggregate would have been a Democrat lead. Think about that. Trafalgar's the reason that Trump had a lead in the RCP average, and they underestimated him by 3 points. They were the most accurate pollster in 2020 in Ohio. Okay, it's one state, but let's keep going. North Carolina, Insider Advantage, Trump +4. They missed a little bit, but it's not that bad. They missed by 2 points. Trafalgar, they were spot on. Let's keep going. Pennsylvania, key swing state. Trafalgar missed by, a couple points. So did Insider Advantage, but okay, you missed by 3 points. Is that the end of the world? Let's keep going to Wisconsin. Trafalgar was the only poll in the state of Wisconsin back in 2020 to be spot on. Hell, even within the margin of error, outside of Susquehanna, every other poll was off by 4 points, 7 points, 10 points. How is Trafalgar this garbage poll? Now, I'm not denying they had some big misses, like in Georgia. It was Trump +5. It ended up being Biden +0.3. This is one of the only states, that in Arizona, and even Nevada, where Trafalgar was off by, a bit more than they should be. But Insider Advantage, they're off by 2 points. Whoop-de-doo, better than Monmouth at Biden +4. Even Arizona, it was like, what, Trump +2 they had it? Yeah, they had a Trump +3. It ended up being Biden +0.3. Which is far more accurate than the New York Times at Biden +6. Yeah. So this theory that Trafalgar and Insider Advantage, they're bad polls, I'm not denying they can get wonky results, but every poll gets that at one point. They sometimes get a weird stretch of bizarre polls. But Trafalgar, especially in the Rust Belt, is far more accurate than, say, the New York Times, Marquette. And they're showing, outside of Michigan, Trump is winning virtually every single swing state. And a couple of them by several points. We just got to see what happens, but this is one of the better pollsters out there. They're not perfect, but they're way better than Marquette. They're way better than Quinnipiac, Marist. and they're showing Trump is in a good position in the swing states. And this was just a day ago. These polls are from 1 day ago. This is post Walz's announcement. This is post possible economic crash. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.